And so recently, you might have seen that the NFL has been putting out their top 100, their list of top 100 players of all time according to skill position, or just position. And so we're going to join them, but we're going to give our top three. This week we're doing offense. Join us next week because we're going to give our defense and special team top players of all time. But this week we're rolling with offense. We're going to give our top three players from each offensive position, and we're actually going to get it right because the NFL fucked it up. Personally, like just honestly, their lists are bad, and they gave like 10 people, and there are still snubs, and we're only giving our top three. But this is going to be obviously it's going to come with some hot button issues. There are going to be arguments, and I would love to hear them. Honestly, I just want to hear your guys' opinion at the end of the day. You know,
Definitely.
and me and Jalen agreed with some of these, but some of them we differ, and of course not everyone's going to share the same opinion, even though you might be wrong. But I still want to hear yours.
Just saying.
So we're going to start with the most widely debated top position, and that is a quarterback. Starting with number
Mm.
three, the third best quarterback of all time is the five head, as we previously mentioned, Peyton Manning. The dude was the first one to break the passing yards record, the touchdown record from Favre. He had like some of the most games played. This dude was a genius when it came to football. He knew exactly what the defense was doing it, how they were doing it, and he made the perfect play call every time with the line of scrimmage. And
Definitely.
he's the smartest football player to ever live. And maybe not in his last season or so, he had an arm. Even coming off of 4 neck surgeries, he had an arm. People forget about that. He wasn't just noodle arm his whole career. That was only his last season. But Jalen, who's your number three?
um, my number three is the Dolphins quarterback, Dan Marino.
The greatest quarterback
He's
to
a
never win
list
a Super Bowl.
exactly. I think Dan Marino, he's definitely been a great mind in football. I think he's one of the smartest quarterbacks right behind Peyton Manning.
Mm-hmm.
He's just had a dominant career. I feel like the numbers kind of, well, the way football went back in his time was kind of, it was, he played quarterback great for a time when quarterbacks weren't like always the best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was still the elite quarterbacks at that time. But in my opinion, I think around that time, other than the very choice few top of the line, it was like a big like deficit from top quarterbacks to everyone else.
Yep.
It was like it
Yep.
was like a really good. It was like probably like a good top like 5, 6, maybe even 7 quarterbacks, and then there was like the rest of the league. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I think he was just a goat. He had 420 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? That's goat like right there. You know what I'm saying? 420 touchdowns. Like
We get it,
he
Jalen.
stopped right there on
We
purpose.
get it.
What I'm saying is Dan Marino smokes weed. That's what I
Thanks.
was going
Thanks. Yeah, we joke. We joke. Thanks, Jalen.
for.
Oh my. Fuck
Also,
you.
he's a great mind in sports. Also, the fact that he sticks around in football today and helps out with some of the young quarterbacks in the game today, just to share some of his knowledge, I think is awesome.
I do like him on.
He,
He's on Fox, right?
I believe he's on Fox. Yeah, I
He's
believe he's
good.
on
I like
Fox.
him and Terry Bradshaw. Got a good thing going there.
Yeah, and he's just amazing. 9-time Pro Bowler. He played for the Dolphins. You know,
He made the Dolphins look like Super Bowl contenders.
and now look at them. You know,
Well,
he's
he did
also
make them Super Bowl contenders. Just never got all the way over the hump.
yeah, so close. And he also won MVP in 1984, so that's also dope.
It's a
But
pretty solid
I
career.
think he is third for me based off of his knowledge
Hmm.
and his ability and having 420 touchdowns, not even the pun of just 420 touchdowns, he's
That's a
ranked
lot.
fifth.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of
Especially in
touchdowns to
that era
draw.
too.
Exactly. That's 420 touchdowns, and I'm pretty sure he only played 242 career games. So
It's not half
you
bad.
can do the math with that. So not
Yeah.
half bad at all.
But we actually do agree on the number two and the number one best quarterback of all time. But number
Yeah.
two, The quarterback we just previously mentioned, Drew Brees. I don't care what you say. I'm going to put Drew Brees as the second best quarterback of all time, and you can at me on that. I don't care. I want to see your
Definitely.
arguments
Go
against
ahead.
that, but in my opinion, Drew Brees is he's underrated because he is the second best quarterback in the NFL history.
Definitely. I think it's literally, I think the only thing you can say against him is he's short.
But once again, that's
Literally.
what other argument do you have? He's doing everything else. He's throwing for passing yards. He's throwing for touchdowns. He's the most accurate quarterback of all time.
Yeah. And since he's been with the Saints, they've never had to think, do we need a new quarterback? It's always been like, what's going to come after Drew Brees? It's always been the worry of after Drew Brees retires, not, oh, what if Drew Brees falls off? It's always been,
Ever
oh
since
my
he
God.
left the Chargers, he
Yeah.
got traded from the Chargers and joined the Saints. It's been history changing.
The Drew Brees trade
Might be the
to,
biggest trade in NFL history.
yeah, I feel like it's as big as probably,
It
I feel like the
reshaped
Drew
two
Brees trade,
franchises.
yeah, I feel like the Drew Brees trade from San Diego to New Orleans is the Kobe trade of the NFL,
Ooh, ooh.
which
Okay.
also was traded from the the Hornets.
When they were still
So
in, okay, wow.
were they in New Orleans at that? I think they might have been in Charlotte.
Charlotte,
I'm not sure.
eh,
They might have been in Charlotte then.
they're one of
I'm not
those. They
sure.
were close, but yeah, yeah.
I don't. I'm not 100% sure on my
We'll just
basketball
add that to
history.
the big if true.
Yeah,
Big if true.
but
Yeah, Drew
that's
Brees,
just
second best
crazy.
quarterback of all time. The best quarterback of all time. I don't think you could really argue against him because he has the stats, he has the talent, and he has, well, a lot of people determine for success. He has the Super Bowls, 5 of them to be exact, and that's Joe Montana. Uh, he was
Yeah,
athletic as hell. Played. He was throwing bombs and throwing for a lot of yards and touchdowns in the era where they still ran the ball a lot. It did help that he has a wide receiver, which we'll talk about in a sec. But greatest quarterback of all time in NFL history. I don't think anyone will surpass him. To be honest, Joe Montana.
yeah, it's definitely going to take a lot to surpass Joe Montana in that way at all. It's going to
I'll
take
say
a
this: if
lot.
Drew Brees wins two Super Bowls, 2 more Super Bowls, I'll put him up there with Joe Montana. If he wins 3 more somehow, I'll say Drew Brees is the best quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I think his
Patrick
clock's kind
Mahomes
of
still has a
ticking.
chance. Aaron Rodgers still has a chance to get there. To be honest, even though he's getting kind of old, he still has a
Yeah,
chance.
I think Drew Brees getting closer to the end of his career. It's not even like play wise. I don't think he's declining play wise. I think it's more injuries. He's gonna end up getting hit, and I feel like he's not
It does help that
durable
he has the
anymore.
best tackle in the league in Ryan
Yeah,
Ramsey's
it
guy,
definitely helps that he has
however
a
the
good
fuck you
line.
pronounce his last name.
I think it's like Rumstrutsky or something like that.
He's good. That's all.
Something like
That's all we know. Ryan
yeah,
is
he's
good.
good.
Yeah.
But I just think and nothing is nothing to say about Drew Brees.
No.
And I'm not talking bad about Drew Brees. It's just the fact that when you get older, when you're getting hit all the time, it's definitely going to start hurting more.
Just what
And
happens to
as
old people.
seen when he got injured earlier this season, which I feel like a lot of people forget that he was injured for a good amount of time.
Well, people forgot
And
about that because Teddy Bridgewater just lit the shit up and won four
yeah,
games
and I think it's people don't realize he would have broke this record
a while ago.
a couple weeks ago, yeah, had he not been injured. So I just think it's kind of getting to that point where we're seeing a lot of the older quarterbacks in the league. They're getting hit a lot more, and it's you hate to see it, but it's gonna happen. It's just how life works. But you hate to see him going out. I hate to see that it's the end of his career, but I feel like he's taken advantage of the career that he's been given. Well,
Exactly.
earned.
Yep. But top 3 quarterbacks of all time. In your opinion, it's Dan Marino, Drew Brees, and Joe Montana. In my opinion, it's
Yes.
Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and Joe Montana. Let's move on into another kind of widely discussed position. That's running back. I'm gonna start this. Jalen, you start this off. Give me your number 3 best running back of all time.
Okay, my number 3 running back of all time. I started off my list with the inhuman Adrian Peterson. He is definitely a top running back. He's also inspiration for a lot of the running backs that are in the league today.
He's still doing well, which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's like he's still. I'm pretty sure last season he ran for over 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's crazy to see. And even one of the most humblest things I saw was back when in one of the playoff games, or I think it was against Minnesota. He could have easily broken the record that he tried so hard to break,
The all-time
and
record.
instead of
Yeah.
yeah, and instead of breaking it, he just he rather just go for the team's win, and he
Slid
didn't
and
want
ran
those
out the
pity.
clock. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, he didn't want to just get those yards like, oh, trying to hurry up and break the record. It was whatever the team needed to win, and
One of
he
the
allowed himself
all-time
to
team
not.
players.
Yeah, exactly. And in that moment, I could say right now in the league, probably like 99, almost 99%. I would probably say like 95% of the running backs in the league right now would have went for that record.
Hmm.
And in that time, they would have went exactly for that record. They would not have given up the chance to take that record down. And
Exactly.
he just humbly just no, I want the team to however the team can win. And so I think that was beautiful to see.
That's what I'm saying. My third best running back of all time was from an era when the Cowboys were actually respectable and good, and that's Emmitt Smith. He was a big part of that Super Bowl winning team. Not the only Cowboy to make this list. Um, as much as that pains me to say, even though I fucking despise the Cowboys, they had some good players back in the day, you know.
Definitely.
But Emmitt Smith, their best running back of all time. Dude was just, he was just good. He was making moves, man. Um,
Yeah, he was Emmitt Smith. This one, the
yeah.
best of all time, definitely.
We. So you have. I'm gonna say, let's go with your number two first before I give you mine.
All right, my number two of all time. Um, I think actually I'm going to change my number two. The way
Okay.
I had it listed, I'm going to move my number two to number one. So my number two running back of all time is Walter Payton. I think that he's an amazing man, amazing football player.
So we did end up
Um,
agreeing on that. Sweetness,
yeah,
Walter Payton, second best running back of all time. Dude was just so damn versatile back in the day. He made people look so stupid.
silly. Grown man looked like children on the field playing against him.
Mm-hmm. It was.
It's Walter Payton.
I would.
Like
I can't. I would be really curious to see what he does in today's NFL back when he was in his prime. I'd be curious.
yeah, I definitely. That's one thing I always like wanted to see is a lot
Compare
of
the
like
eras.
the yeah, like because there's always like rule changes and just the way of playing stuff and new
And
techniques. I
talent's
always
just
wanted
better
to
than it ever has been.
yeah, and there's always the argument between your generation and the older generation's always like, oh, this guy was the best
Hmm.
because that's who was there for them. And then for us, it's always, oh, no, this guy was the best because that's who was there for us. We got to see them live and happening right there. So watching highlights compared to having someone do it every single week while we're alive is way different for us. So, I'd always wondered what it'd be like if just everyone got to play in their prime just against each other and just see how that went.
That'd be, man, that'd be so much fun if we can go back in time and just do that. I think
That'd
that'd
be
be the best
awesome.
way to use time travel. Is just to compare all these players at the same time.
Definitely. The
Yeah.
best way to use time travel. Nothing else would top that.
Nope. Not shit. I can't think of anything. Hey, but number one best quarterback of all time, in my opinion, is one of the guys who I wish had a longer career. Also, he's not the only Detroit Lions player on this list, but Barry Sanders, the greatest running back of all time in NFL history.
Okay. Yeah, that's Barry Sanders is definitely
I think him and
an
Walter Payton
amazing
had
running back.
similar running styles, but Barry Sanders was just that much more slippery, I think.
Shiftier.
You know?
Yeah. And,
And
and he stopped, I'm pretty sure, 99 rush touchdowns.
yeah.
You know, I like for me, I feel like that's more of a today's thing, but I feel like for me, I feel like I would have to come back if I had like 900, like
Just to
let's say
get
I
that
was at
one more.
9,999 rush yards, I would come back for a season and get that yard.
You got to,
I feel like I would hate to stop right at the brink of passing a number like that.
right?
Like obviously, if he was out like 95 or something like even
Probably won't be
95, I'd
worth
be
it.
like
Maybe.
I'd probably come back for it. But if it was like 89 or something like
Oh
that,
yeah.
let's say 89,
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't come back. I'd be like whatever.
Yeah, but who's
But like
your
99
uh
touchdowns, yeah, I feel
it's
like
pretty
that.
damn
Like you
good.
could, yeah, you're just like I feel like for me in my head, I would just be like, man, if I would just fell forward one more time,
Right?
if I'd have broke one more tackle, would I have that 100 touchdowns?
Probably.
So that's just me.
That's him. But who is your number one running back of all time?
My number one running back of all time, I feel like, just because like his impact on the game now
Mm-hmm.
is Jim Brown.
Oh,
First of all,
okay.
Jim Brown is technically listed as a fullback for the record books, just based off of the scheme that the Browns ran back then.
Mm-hmm.
He's technically listed as a fullback, but he played the running back position and a fullback pretty much
Yeah.
position. Yeah. So I think Jim Brown, he's definitely
He changed
a
the game.
reason. He changed the game. Like people weren't playing like that. It was a lot of just brutes in the game, and he could run anybody over still, but at the same time, he was just dominant on the field. He rushed 2,359 times. That is a lot of rushes in career,
It's
and
surprisingly difficult to do that.
just to even touch the ball 2,359 times, you have to really be trusted. No one's gonna hand you the ball over 2,000 times if you suck.
Right? But his durability is impressive.
Definitely, his durability
Back when
is
their
one of the
gear was
best.
dog shit when he was playing.
Yeah, and he was 6'2", 232 pounds.
It's pretty damn big for that era.
Yeah, he rushed for 12,312 yards in his career. He averaged 5.2 yards. And of 2,359 rushes, he averaged 5.2 yards a carry. That is insane.
That's nutty.
And ended up scoring 106 touchdowns in his career. I think in today's football, if he played with the same intensity that he played with in his prime, he would definitely break all of his career highs.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely.
And he's a Hall of Famer, 9-time Pro Bowler, 8-time All Pro, NFL champ. He gave the Browns an NFL championship. Like
Their only one
that's greatness in itself.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So
He could probably do it again if he came back.
no,
No.
okay, let's not go that far. The Browns are trash now.
Browns
He would
fucking
definitely
need
still be one of the best running backs of all time.
Yeah.
But I do not think
Yeah. But
he
the
would
number
lead these
3,
Browns.
in my opinion, Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders. Jalen, you said Adrian Pearson, Walter Payton, and then the iconic Jim Brown. I'm
Yes,
cool with
sir.
that. Moving on to wide receiver now. Jalen, your third best wide receiver of all time.
I'm gonna let you go first since you've been nice all this whole entire
Thank
time.
you.
I'm gonna give you some of the nicest back.
Thank you. One of the it's another Detroit Lions player, like I alluded to earlier. Had a shortened career, left on his own terms, but honestly, one of the third most dominant and best wide receiver of all time is Calvin Johnson. Megatron was an absolute animal on the field. I remember watching the sports
beast.
science on him, but dude had like a range of like 5 yards or something like that all around him. He could catch anything that got close to him. He had hands, he had speed, and he could run the motherfucker over if he needed to.
Clean. He could just clean, like not just like one of those and drag you. He knocked you to the ground, and
He
you
played
didn't
like
know
a
where
fullback, but he had hands like with the like nothing else. I mean, he was so good.
Yeah, definitely. He was a beast on that field, and it is amazing to see.
Yeah, Jalen, you're third.
My number 3 receiver of all time is Randy Moss. You know,
Ooh,
he's
okay.
he comes out the mouth of
We
kids
kind of
all over the
disagree on
country.
this.
Yeah, I think I got Randy Moss as my third.
That's not bad though.
He's definitely one of the best of all time. You know, when you get your last name yelled out when someone jumps and makes an
You
amazing
got
catch, and
Moss.
it's like that's a Moss.
That's
Like
iconic. That's how you know you did
It-
something right. If people say your name when you get an amazing catch, that's something else right there.
Like all you hear on the NFL today is that was a Moss-like catch. I mean, a lot of reporters now are trying to be modern and say, "Oh, look at the Odell catch,"
Right.
just because of Odell's catch. Like Odell, I think
No.
catches great. He has great hands.
The
but
term
Randy
getting Moss is going to exist until the end of football.
Exactly. It's
That's
just
a damn good sign of how
the things he
impactful
would
he
do
was.
on the field. was just absolutely amazing.
I
And you
agree.
cannot recreate a lot of those moments that he had. Like even when one of his best plays, I think, wasn't even him scoring a touchdown. I think one of his best plays, or at least one of my favorite plays, was when he played for Minnesota and he caught a deep pass and lateraled it back.
Right?
That was amazing to me. And I think to be able to catch a ball, first of all, a contested ball, it wasn't like he just caught it by himself.
Hmm.
Caught a contested ball, get hit, and still make a perfect pitch back at the same time
Hmm.
as somebody is running full speed past you. He wasn't stopped there. He was running past.
Also, let's just say Randy Moss might have had the most iconic performance of all time is on Thanksgiving against Dallas. Stat line: 3 catches, 163 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's never going to happen again.
Never.
It was
And that wasn't even on purpose. It wasn't like,
no,
hey, Randy, we're going to throw you 3 touchdowns.
no.
We're
Randy's
going to
just
throw you a
that fucking
touchdown on this
good,
play.
man.
It was literally throwing to Randy, hey, Randy, go make a play after we throw it to you.
Right?
And
Randy, you're never going to see
he's
that
gone.
stat line. You're never going to see 3 catches for 163 yards and 3 touchdowns again. No one's going to get close. That's
Not even
ridiculous.
close.
But for that reason, that's why Randy Moss is my second best receiver of all time.
Mm.
Who's yours?
My second best receiver of all time is Larry Fitzgerald.
Okay, I'm
I
fine with
think the
that.
stats show for themselves. I think he has the most reliable hands of all
One
time.
of the nicest people of
Uh,
all time. Walter Payton Man of the Year.
exactly. I think Larry Fitzgerald is just it's you can't there's nothing bad you can say about this man. Like
He's one of the
obviously
nicest people of all time.
exactly, and I
Like
think
he's
he's
like Drew
always been one of the
Brees-esque,
best well rounded.
you know,
Yeah, exactly. I think he's the Drew Brees
wide
the
receivers.
of the wide receivers. I think a lot of the time Larry Fitzgerald isn't looked at as one of the best just based off the his team hasn't always had the most success. And I think that still I feel like that should make him look even better. The fact that he's played with so many quarterbacks. I've lost count at this point. I think the count's up to like 16.
Jeez,
At this point, he's
that's
played with
brutal.
16 different quarterbacks, and out of all those quarterbacks, probably one at most two of them would make the Hall of Fame. I
Yeah.
would say Kurt Warner and Carson Palmer are the only two who could. Carson Palmer, if Kurt
Nah,
Warner's obviously going to make the
that's
Hall
a
of Fame,
stretch.
Kurt Warner might just make it just more at the fact that
He's amazing.
he played. Yeah, it just he had really amazing years, but
Yeah,
then he did have a couple of down years.
of course.
So he's really iffy. If he does make it, it'll be like a couple. It's going to be it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's
Uh,
definitely going to be a debate.
I totally agree. Dude's amazing. One of the nicest people you ever meet. But number one wide receiver of all time, we both agree on this, and it's really hard to argue against this one as well. Jerry Rice, he was a generational talent, probably the hardest working NFL player of all time. He caught everything, disregard the whole
Everything.
stick 'em kind of thing. But he caught everything. His route running was just amazing. It doesn't matter if you stick him because that was a whole controversy. It doesn't matter if he used it because he was 3 to 5 yards open every time the ball got thrown his way. Stick
So
him isn't going to
he was
help
going
you
to be
with that.
gone.
He right.
Yeah,
He was unreal with his route running. No one could keep up with him. No one could cover him. I know there's can't guard Mike, man, but you could not guard Jerry Rice. He's NFL records for what most receiving yards, most receptions, and most receiving touchdowns of all time.
exactly. And it's his records aren't just like barely beating everyone
No,
else.
there is a big gap. There's a
Yeah,
large.
there is a big gap. Like it's crazy how big a difference there is from his records to everyone else's records. And Larry Fitzgerald is second on this list for me, and second in a lot of the records that Jerry Rice holds. He is second, close second.
Yeah,
For most of those records, Larry Fitzgerald is a good amount of time back. Like a lot of the records, it would take him a couple more seasons to get close to. Let alone break. So it is definitely to be able to do that. I think Jerry Rice's records, in my opinion, other than those random records the NFL makes up, like doing something in 7 seasons. He caught three passes on
those
a windy
aren't
day.
stats. Stats
Yeah,
are
like,
the most all time. That's a stat right
yeah,
there.
exactly. I hate when they make up the random records out of
Just to
nowhere.
make
Like,
people look good. That's what they do with LeBron
yeah,
a lot over in the NBA.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's the first person at 21 to make 5 jump shots on 3 different days
Right.
when it was raining
The
outside
most
after someone got murdered. Like,
the most specific shit of all time.
yeah, and it's like obviously if you make it like that, like the first person named Jerry Rice to catch a ball
So
is
stupid.
he holds just crazy. I think
And
his
those records
records.
aren't. They're going to stand the test of time as well.
Yeah, I feel like they will, unless someone literally just comes out and catches. Well, like, because at one point Jerry Rice was getting like 1,800 yards a season. Like that is not easy.
No.
He had 1,800 yards in a season. You do not see people do that often because it's not easy to do, and that's destructive records. It's because he would do stuff like that. It's the unbelievable stuff, and like you could say nowadays, the game he had is more fit for today's game than it was back then.
Hmm.
Like his records would be even more like crazy
Right?
today. So it's just unbelievable
No.
to think about
Yeah.
or even talk about.
But the best receivers of all time, he said Calvin Johnson third best. We both said Randy Moss, or I said Calvin Johnson, then Randy Moss and Jerry Rice. Jalen said you said Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald, and Jerry Rice. Both very respectable
Yes.
lists. Moving on to tight ends now. Might be a little. Some people might disagree because people like the NFL. Yeah, Mike Dick, best tight end of all time. I disagree. Third best.
I do.
Sorry, with third best tight end of all time, Antonio Gates. When he was on the Chargers, that guy was something else. He caught everything. He was getting so many touchdowns. He was a tight end putting up wide receiver numbers, and it was unreal. He made Philip Rivers look like a god on that field. Now, remember the Chargers
Yeah.
when they had the nice navy blue jerseys with Philip
Oof.
Rivers, LaDainian Tomlinson, and Antonio Gates. That was a team right there.
That is destructive when
That's also
you're,
when they
you're
had the top defense, top offense, but the worst special teams and ended up losing because of that. So, congrats, Chargers, on being the best, it being the worst somehow. Good for you.
yeah. I don't know how you did it, but you did it.
You're third best tight end of all time.
My third best tight end of all time is also Antonio Gates.
Do our
So
list match
we
on this one as well?
our lists match identically on this one.
Fuck yeah. I mean, it's hard not to argue. Second best tight end of all time. He might have had his career a little short, but when he was playing, he was a dominant beast, and you couldn't tackle. You had to get like 3 or 4 people to tackle him, and it was unreal watching this guy play in his prime. That's Rob Gronkowski. The guy was just a fucking animal. He was a horse. He was a damn
Let's get it correct.
Clydesdale on that
He
field.
wasn't just an animal. He was a party animal.
Okay,
A party animal.
thank you.
Rob Gronkowski, just amazing. And it's like when you listen to him and like listen to him as a person, he does not seem like he would be just like some dominant football player. He seems like he kind of be like some meathead.
No,
That kind of just,
he's
but the
fuck-
way he played was so like
good.
intelligent.
And he played
Yeah.
with a chip on his shoulder like no one else, man. He was an animal.
Exactly. And he always accepted. No, I mean, let's not say always, but for the most part, he accepted when it was his fault and when he
Oh, yeah,
needed
yeah.
to get better.
Yeah,
And also when he was injured, just playing for the team, he knew his team system needed him
right.
to work.
Man,
And
that
so
elbow
he would-
brace became a part of him.
Exactly. And that elbow brace was just iconic. It was him. And so I think he is definitely going to revolutionize the game
Yeah, he is.
for a lot of the tight ends coming up now. They see how Rob played, and a lot of them want to do that same thing of being a dominant. He was a great, like, I feel like it's not talked about enough, but Rob Gronkowski was a great blocker.
Yeah, he
other
was.
than just a receiving threat. He was an amazing blocker for the Patriots team, and I think are now trying to be great blockers and also a top receiving threat. Like, not because a lot of tight ends when they came into the NFL were either a great blocker or they were a great, pretty much
weren't
a
both.
gigantic receiver. It was really hard to find one that was both.
Gronk was a
And I feel
hybrid.
like-
That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And
He was.
so
I mean,
he's
he was
really
one of the
brought
only
in-
killers. There were 2 killers on the Patriots team when they were both playing together, both tight ends. But one was a killer on the field and one was a killer off the field. Shout out to
You know,
Aaron
and
Hernandez.
I'm glad.
He's
I'm glad
just
he
hanging
chose
in
the
there
right one.
still. I'm sure he is.
No,
Um,
okay, wow.
uh, number one tight end of all time. He was a game changer. He was so damn dynamic. He had hands, he had speed, he had size. He played for two teams, and he was amazing on both teams he played for. That's Tony Gonzalez, best tight end of all time.
Agreed. It's Tony G, man.
Tony
You
G.
can't. He was dominant on the Chiefs. He was dominant on the Falcons,
He made
and
the
it's
Falcons, man.
it's crazy what he was able to do. He great one hand catches, great two hand catches, dunked on the goalpost.
That was probably the best part. Remember when he dunked on
Yeah,
the goalpost too hard and made it crooked, so they had to go out and fix it?
yeah, and then Jimmy Graham came in doing the same thing.
Oh boy, yeah, but that all that stuff was amazing. But tight ends 3-1. We're going Antonio Gates, Rob Gronkowski, and Tony Gonzalez. Moving into the most
Definitely.
important part of the team, I'll say that I don't give a fuck. Let me win games. Offensive tackle. We're going from three
Mm.
to one again, and I on the O lineman. Jalen just agreed with me because I'm right, and it's hard to argue against me sometimes. I know.
I mean, it's just these linemen. It's we grew up watching the same stuff,
Yeah,
and me and Ross kind of just with the linemen. It's always been the same thing for us.
we
So
got the same
we agree
opinions on these
100% on the
guys.
entire offensive line.
Yep. Starting with offensive tackle. One of the guys, I'm pissed because if you go on the NFL website, look at their top 100 tackles. There's like 10 of them, and or there's like 6 of them, and Joe Thomas didn't even make that 6. Joe Thomas is the third best tackle of all time for playing as many snaps in a row as he did, for going through how many different offenses and quarterbacks and head coaches as he did, for just being a team player, putting his head down and working, and never really expecting much in return, especially playing for the Browns. He was amazing. He's a future Hall of Famer, and he realistically is a top 3 tackle of all time. Put a little more respect on his name, please.
Definitely. He's been dominant. And to go to that many different schemes, I don't know if you guys know how difficult it is to go and change an offensive scheme for an
It's so
offensive lineman.
it's so
It's
hard,
not
man.
all yeah, it's not always
I can
just
speak
for
from
linemen.
experience.
Yeah, it's not to just for linemen. It's not always just go out there and be a brute. Like you
No.
can't like there's a lot of just terminology and movements and steps that you have to take. And while doing this, you always have to think while also making these steps and then also stopping these beasts of men that are on the opposite side of the ball in the defensive line, which we will talk about next week's show, obviously. But to do that and also memorize the scheme
Yep.
while also knowing that the original scheme can break down at any point and you're just going to have to free play it. To do that the way he did it in so many different schemes is just amazing.
Yeah. Second best offensive tackle of all time, Walter Jones. A little more of a throwback, this guy, but he was a beast. He big time guy in the Seahawks, started from 1997 to 2008. The guy was just amazing. Really athletic, really strong and big, and he just made plays everywhere he went.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's it's a throwback. It's definitely a throwback.
The number
But
one players, the number one offensive tackle of all time is also a throwback too.
exactly.
As we go.
I think linemen have it's kind of just like linemen have always been like not the same,
Hmm.
but I feel like lineman is one of the few positions where you can go back through the test of time, and a lot of them would still be good today.
Right? Yeah,
I,
all these guys are just amazing. The best offensive tackle of all time is a Hall of Famer, the legend, Anthony Munoz. He's a guy that people tried to mimic their game after. He was just this beast on the field. Man, he was just ridiculously good. He was athletic on the playing the edge, and I don't think it would be hard to pass him as the best to take the title away from him as the best tackle of all time.
yeah, I'm glad we could agree with NFL on something.
Some things, at least. Moving into guards, offensive guards. Third best one, Randall McDaniel. The guards gotta go a little more back in time for some of these guys. Big guy in the Vikings. He was just tearing up that interior. and no one's going to get through him, honestly.
No, beast in the middle. His grip and strength,
His arms are
outstanding.
fucking huge.
Yeah, he was jacked for sure.
Second best guard of all time. It kind of hurts to say because he did play for the Raiders, but it's Gene Upshaw, Hall of Famer. Um, just game changer. He was so damn
Game
good on that
changer.
Raiders. He's what made that Raiders era as good as they were back when they were actually winning Super Bowls in the 80s.
Yeah,
Hasn't
they
really been much of
he's
late, but the Raiders were good, and I'm willing to admit that.
yeah, and he was definitely a big upside for them. He was destructive. It was obviously somebody you hated to have to go through every single week.
Hmm.
So I feel bad for people in that division when they had to play him
Right.
because when you have to play him multiple times in a season, it's not something that you look forward to.
Not at all. But moving on to the best guard of all time. He's the best offensive lineman of all time. I'm gonna say the best lineman in general of all time. One of the top players of all time. This is my favorite player, so it might be a little biased. But Larry Allen, guard for the Dallas Cowboys, the greatest offensive lineman of all time. I don't think anyone's going to get close, just based on his size. He's a big guy, and you guys should all look at the
Huge,
play. You see when
fast.
he ran. There's I forget who they were playing, but he chased down a defensive back that almost scored a pick six on them. He caught up to him, which was ridiculous. That's scary. Imagine seeing a big guy move that fast. But that's why he was so good
Yeah,
on powers. He pulled. If you're a linebacker and you see Larry Allen pulling up through the hole, all you do is shit yourself and try not to die.
yeah,
Um,
because he's gonna hit you and you're gonna feel it.
Larry Allen manhandled everyone he faced. He was just so fucking strong. His technique was perfect. And there's no one better at the game than Larry Allen was. No one had a bigger impact, um, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, it's a man that you see him and it's like first of all he looks intimidating,
Hmm.
and
He's a
then
scary dude,
he gets it more intimidating when he gets his hands on you. Like
right?
there's nothing you can do. I really want to see Larry Allen in his prime go against Aaron Donald in his
Oh,
prime.
I'm
I feel
putting
like
my
that'd
money
be
on Larry. I'm putting my money on
I
Larry.
would, but I would still like to see if
Oh, I would
like I
love
want
to
to
see.
see if Aaron Donald
Give me the one on
actually
ones of
holds
that,
up.
please. Give me the one on ones when you take when you take the step over bags and you put them like 3 yards apart. It's just mano a mano drive and try to get past. Oh, I would love that. That's the best drill at practice too, by the way.
That would
But Larry
oh
Allen
yeah.
was probably half the reason for Emmett Smith's success, if we're being honest.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, but Larry Allen, I could watch his highlights all day, every day. One of the best players of all time, just in general.
Yeah, and also a fact about Larry Allen in a season of when his team did 480 pass plays, which is a lot. I don't know if you guys know that's a big number.
It's a lot.
480 pass plays.
Pick our words.
That entire line, not even just Larry himself, but that entire line only gave up 35 sacks that season.
That's one hell of a stat right there.
Out of 480 pass plays, 35 sacks were allowed.
That
And
is
those weren't even saying that those were Larry's fault, just in general. He was a
that's
part of that line.
yeah. The Cowboys back in the '90s, when they were actually good, they were good, and
They were
that O line
destructive.
was just amazing. But Larry Allen, the best offensive lineman of all time, I will go to the grave saying that. No one will ever pass him. But finishing
Yeah,
off
definitely.
our last position on the list is the centers. One of the guys, the third best center in NFL history. Some people might disagree. It's okay. Like we said before, please share your comments. But he was a guy that played with Peyton Manning over in Indianapolis. I'm really disappointed that the NFL didn't even include them. He wasn't even on the team at all. But that's Jeff Saturday. He was good. He was damn
Yeah.
good, and he was.
Just
I guess he
for
was
the viewers out
underrated
there,
because he wasn't even on the list. So I guess
Yeah,
Jeff
just for the
Saturday.
viewers out there who can't see our list, Ross's list does include three people. My list has one person on it. My list just says Jeff Saturday. That's it. I don't have anybody else on my list
You don't need
because
anyone
the
else.
disrespect that they did put on him for not even including him on the list. Like if you had at least made the list, I'd be like, all right, whatever,
Right.
debatable.
But no,
But
Jeff.
you
At
didn't even
least
put him
put
on
him
the
on the
list.
fucking list. Jeff
So
Saturday.
my list of top centers of all time is just Jeff Saturday. That is my
There we go.
list. Jeff
That's our
Saturday.
fuck you to the NFL with being stupid with this list.
My list is Jeff fucking Saturday. That's my top three.
Damn, that's all we need. But just I don't even need to talk about the other two people. I'm just gonna mention Jim Otto, one of the greatest of all time. Obviously, another Raiders player, so it kind of sucks. It was weird seeing him in double zeros back in that era. But best and then best center of all time, Steelers legend Mike Webster. Um, Part of that steel curtain team that they had, but who the fuck cares? Jeff Saturday, please put a little more respect on his name.